Welcome to our next In Conversation session with John Gerum, the Senior Innovation Advisor with Innovations Canada. So we will start with a territorial acknowledgement for our In Conversation, respectfully acknowledging that we are primarily located on the traditional lands that are known as part of Treaties 6, 7, and 8 and homeland of the Métis. We respect the sovereignty, lands, histories, languages, knowledge systems, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit nations. Welcome to the Health Innovation Hub. If you are coming in for the first time, the Health Innovation Hub is a community incubator for innovators and entrepreneurs who are working towards better human health outcomes. So we basically cater to a large population of entrepreneurs and researchers, also students and employees, trainees, as well as service providers. We provide our services through multiple different ways. One of them is through our beautiful office and lab space here in downtown Edmonton, Enterprise Square, which is the University of Alberta's downtown campus. We also have many types of programming for early stage companies and also for new researchers as well as for students. There's concierge services and navigation to the ecosystem here in Edmonton, and we also provide concierge services to connections at the University of Alberta. We have a robust community. We do a whole lot of events. One of this is the In Conversation that you are joining us today. We also have information sharing, business coaching, and other sorts of events which are going to be coming up soon, such as an advisory council, which is in the works. Our business model is very simple. Any company or any researchers who has an interest in forming a company or who has formed a company, and that is in the human health applies, then there's a very simple form. We analyze those applications, we have a meeting with them, we decide where they need support is needed. And once we get that, we have a hands-on model where we work directly with these companies and progress and track their progress to see whether they are making the progress towards their commercialization goals. From this, you can see that we have at this present moment 43 companies and they fall within 6 different classes of human health, so quite a large repertoire. And they are present actually within the whole of the University of Alberta. We also have many companies who are outside of the university. Out of these 43 companies, 25 of them are located here at the U of A. They are directly associated. We have many alumni companies as well. And then they are present across the university in multiple different faculties. And our companies have been very successful. So over the last 1 year, they have created many jobs and have helped to diversify Edmonton and Alberta's economy by 62 full-time, 20 part-time, and 30 internships. They've also brought in quite a lot of funding, which is both in the non-dilutive as well as dilutive funding. Please make a screenshot.
Oh, okay.
We lost you for a moment, Paramita.
Oh, hello. It's probably because my internet is wonky. So apologies for that. So we are available through the website as well, or you can also connect to us through LinkedIn. So with that, I am going to pass it over to John Gerum. Welcome, John. With a diverse background in teaching, entrepreneurship, and international trade, John Gerum, the Senior Innovation Advisor for Innovation Canada, has helped countless businesses in all sectors to hit their goals. As a member of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and the Edmonton Economic Development Corporation, John has developed and managed Edmonton's Trade Accelerator Program, which was an initiative that has already helped more than 80 local businesses to reach their global potential. With his proven experience and passion for teaching and mentoring, John can help to advance your strategic development, expand into international markets, and accelerate your growth goals. Welcome, John Gerum. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Paramita, and thank you for the invitation to share programs and services. As Paramita said, I work with Innovation Canada in the Accelerated Growth Service, and I'm the Senior Innovation Advisor for the Edmonton region and Northern Alberta, although we have innovation advisors across Canada from Halifax to Vancouver, and we have some representation in the Northern Territories also. So I'm going to go through just a bit of details about the Accelerated Growth Service Department or Directorate, and I'm going to share with you what programs and services are available to scale your company and support your company as it goes through your growth stages. So within Innovation Canada, in the center, we have the Accelerated Growth Service, which is the department that I'm with. But we also have a few other similar departments within Innovation Canada. So I'll just go over them very quickly. But at the top, we have BizPal, and that is a service where you can go to a one-stop shop for business licenses, licenses in general, municipal applications for different projects and things like that. So if you're stuck on any kind of bureaucratic, municipal or business licensing issues, you can contact BizPal. The next section is the Innovative Solutions Canada, and this one's really interesting. It might be applicable to some of the health companies out there. It's where the Canadian government has two streams. One is called a challenge stream, where they have a technology challenge. It could be health, it could be any sector. And they're looking for companies to provide research and innovation in that space. And also, if you have an innovative solution to a Canadian ecosystem problem, then you can also go to the other stream to take a look at that. Going down into the Business Benefits Finder, this one's going to be extremely important, and actually I'll explain more about that in the next slide. Explore IP at the end. As you know, intellectual property and patent protection is extremely important for innovative health companies. So you want to make sure that your IP is protected in the right way, and you can contact our IP specialists and they can guide you through what is required to make sure that you're protecting your intellectual property. Next up, we have Strategic Innovation Fund. That's for large innovative companies that are Canadian-wide in scope. And those funding starts at $20 million for really large projects that increase the infrastructure and health of all Canadians. And then we have the super clusters, which is a collection of 5 different entities. And they're a collaboration between government, academia, and organizations within a sector to elevate and scale up the innovation in that area. So now I'm going to talk about the Accelerated Growth Service, which I'm in the department. So we have really 3 different levels of service. So if you want to look at service levels, the first one is the Business Benefits Finder, which is a very unique platform where you can go and put in your company story and find out which programs are available to you. So it's done in drop-down menus. So you can go and find exactly what programs that are available to you and services. So that one is absolutely free on the platform. And if you just Google Business Benefits Finder, you'll see that right away. And it's an excellent platform. It's kept up to date by the department. So there won't be any programs that will be out of date, and they're updating that constantly. So the next level of service is called the advisory call. And I would invite anyone who wants to have more information about the programs or services that we offer, contact myself. And what that is, it's a half an hour conversation on where your company is, what kind of obstacles you're coming up against, and how we can find the right program and service for you. So,
John,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I
Yeah.
don't think your slides are moving.
Oh. So which slide are you seeing?
You were on the Innovation Canada slide. I think you wanted to go to the Innovation Advisor slide.
Yeah, I'm on the Accelerated Growth Service, Spectrum of Service. That's the one I'm seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And right. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm seeing. I think,
Yes.
okay.
The red pyramid?
Yes, all right, wonderful.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so so that would be the second point up from the bottom on the right. Innovators receive personal one-on-one advice from Innovation Advisor on how to access government support to grow. So we have a conversation, you explain what your innovation is, we talk about what challenges you have, and then I write an email later on to give you information and connections to all the different programs. And the last one is called the growth service, and that's high growth firms with revenue. We put together a customized team with all our partners. So we partner with other federal agencies, including BDC, EDC, IRAP, Prairies Can, and other partners depending on need. Okay, does everyone see level 1 support? Yeah, okay. So like I said, this is the, yeah, thank you. So this is the business benefits finder, and you can see at the bottom the link, and you get that tailored list of the right supports. We did have COVID-19, there's a few available, but we're slowly shutting that down. And then also what's really handy is you get an email if there's any updates on any of the programs that you're interested in. So you get an automatic email if anything's changed or there's new information on those programs. So that level 2 support, like I said, is industry professionals with extensive networks, experience and expertise in a wide range of industrial and other agnostic sectors. So all the innovation advisors are entrepreneurs. So that's one of the qualifications you need to become an innovation advisor, is that you've created your own company that has been successful. So you understand the struggles and the pains that entrepreneurs go through. And believe me, I've made enough mistakes as an entrepreneur and had enough challenges that I would appreciate everybody else that's going through that process. So we're here as trusted advisors who are positioned to find the best government support for you at the end of the day. And the value here is it's one-on-one support for your business tailored to your needs. So how can we help? So advisory calls connect innovative companies to the government support. We're here to advise, have expertise and connections. So on the right-hand side, you will see that these are some of the things we can connect you with. Funding technology projects, R&D partnering opportunities, access to technology and facilities, insurance, financing, bonding, connections to international buyers and distributors, loans and investments, helping to apply for patents and IP, and importantly, selling to your product or service to the government, because the government wants to support innovative companies that are Canadian. So it's one of the opportunities that many entrepreneurs might miss out. So you want to make sure that you've sort of covered all your bases with that. So what are some of the supports available from the ecosystem? And I've put a few examples here just to give you a basic idea. So they provide funding. So what is funding? Funding is amounts of money that are non-repayable. So you can get loans, you can get letters of credit, but with funding, there is no payback, and usually you have to put in a percentage of that funding to get that. So examples of entities that fund are Alberta Innovates, Prairies Can, you can go to Venture Capital, IRAP, which is Industrial Research Canada, SIF, which is Strategic Innovation, and Innovation Canada. So for financing, that's when you get loans and working capital. You can go to BDC and EDC. And really important is the level of advice you get at the growth stage of your company. So at the beginning, you want to make sure you have a very good foundation of your business model as far as structure for financing and market research and those things. So Business Link has free advice that they can give you, and also market research. So they're a valuable resource that are right here in downtown Edmonton. You have the Business Development Bank of Canada, which has an excellent advisory team. And that team is composed of experts who are entrepreneurs in that specific sector, in that specific discipline, that can guide you through the weeds when you come to those kind of problems. Also, Innovate Edmonton and Startup Edmonton and Alberta Women Entrepreneurs also have advice available depending on your need. We can make introductions to health-focused profit and nonprofit organizations. And I'm sure a lot of you have already accessed that, but if you're having any issues trying to get a hold of an organization or somebody within that organization, we can always help to advocate on your behalf. When you're doing R&D, you want to make sure that you've secured all your tax credits. And SHRED is the Revenue Canada program that makes sure that you get the tax credits you deserve for research and development. The good news about SHRED, it is retroactive. So even though you haven't filed in a year, you can go back, I'm not sure the amount of years, but you can go back a bit and get extra refunds that way. And if anyone needs any information on SHRED, I have somebody at the SHRED office that can help you look at what that can do for your organization. And we're also big on other networking opportunities. So Startup TNT, regional innovation networks, those kind of organizations are great at getting the word out and connecting with the right partners to accelerate your growth. And then also super important, of course, is the talent, what kind of staff and personnel that you need and have to do research on. So there's quite a bit of wage subsidies and talent recruitment. Now, remember, for talent, if you're getting a wage subsidy, and that could be a wage subsidy for a researcher or even a marketing person, that it's based on a project, not on a continuum. So most government programs work on the fact that you have a project, an innovative project within your company that has a start date and an end date that they can support. So always make sure that you frame your innovation in that sense. So what I've done is I've put up a few examples, case studies of innovative companies that are different stages of their development, just to see what kind of advice and what kind of programs that we might deliver. So in case study number one, a 30-year-old entrepreneur has developed a new innovative clinical health app. He has registered his company, has successfully built a beta version of the app and tested it with 200 customers. Feedback has been very positive. Now he needs support to scale up his company. So I see a lot of companies in this position where they've got the beta version, they've tested it out, they've done their marketing testing, they're at a technology readiness level of a 6 or a 7, and they really need to go now to market and find out how to get there. So the first thing I would say is this individual might need business advice. So that could be Startup Edmonton, Propel Pre-Accelerator to build a customer base and attract investment. The second would be Business Link with their Startup Essentials, which is one-on-one advice on structuring and setting up business, marketing research, financing options, and building a business plan. Now, remember, all these programs, the advice and so forth, are free. So definitely take advantage of those if you need that. So for this first case study, obviously, when you're at the next stage and you start to need to get customers and build a network, you need to do some networking. So to build connections with other entrepreneurs, support organizations, and potential investors. So you could be looking for an angel investor or a capital investment, and you have to get out there and let people know what you're doing and how excited you are, and hopefully spread that excitement to other people and organizations. So there's a great group here in Edmonton called Startup TNT, and it's a social-driven support community event to connect innovators, scientists, investors, and startup supporters. And that's really important. You want to get out, you want to talk to investors, you want to talk to other entrepreneurs that might have gone through the same thing you're going through. So it's a very, there is peer-to-peer support there. And I would recommend to anyone that they attend one of these networking sessions. We also have here in Edmonton a Rainforest YEG, and those are regular meetings to evaluate and improve Edmonton innovation ecosystem, bringing together investors, strategists, doers, and thought leaders. So this one has some very interesting people that are just in the community to support and help. Sometimes they're retired entrepreneurs that are just excited about supporting innovative companies and the health ecosystem. So it's a great place to connect and maybe even find a mentor or somebody that you can lean on for advice. And of course, this company is going to need some talent acquisition. They're probably going to need somebody perhaps in marketing, perhaps somebody in finance, and maybe some more technical IT workers. So they would need talent acquisition to assist in building technology and developing a customer base. So we have a great program that's sponsored by the government called MyTax. You might have heard of it because they have an office actually at the University of Alberta. And they subsidize graduate students to work on innovative projects to develop products and services for entrepreneurs. So that's a great way to leverage postgraduate support, number one, and for them to get paid, and for them to work on a project for your company. Another one is the Canada Student Work Placement Program called TechNation, and they have student assistance to develop projects with internships and wage subsidies. So there is quite a bit of student and wage subsidies available. And if you need more information on that, you can always email me, or if you go to the business benefit finders and put in one of the requirements as needing talent, they'll come up with all the different programs there. So obviously in this case study, this individual is going to need some funds. They're going to need some finances to build resources for cash flow and building business capacity. So you have to remember, once you've built something and you're ready to go to market, the sales aren't going to come all at once. So you have to have a really good understanding of cash flow for that next 6 months, that next year, until you can generate enough revenue so you're breaking even, you can support moving forward with your company. So make sure that you have enough cash flow every month minus whatever revenues you may have. So if you're pre-revenue and you need $2,000 a month to keep going, and you need 6 months to get to a stage where you're starting to develop revenue, you need $12,000 in cash flow, and you need to be able to come up with that money to continue. And the amount of money that you spend every month to move your company forward minus any revenue is called your burn rate. So that's a very important term to understand. So there is funding and financing available. One of the programs is called Futurepreneur, And entrepreneurs aged less than 39, so youth, can access up to 60K in financing available with mentor support. So that's important too, as you're looking to, you're starting to handle or look over thousands of dollars. You want to make sure that you're putting the right money in the right spot, because one of the downfalls of entrepreneurs that don't have a strong financial background is that the money perhaps isn't managed the way it should be. So having a mentor to help with that is important. And then BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, has a young entrepreneur program where they have up to $100,000 in funds available to support company growth. So that would be, if this case study, this would be an example of a company that would come to an innovation advisor and we'd have a conversation. And these are the kind of programs that I would recommend to them. So I'm going to go over one more example here, one more case study. In this case, we have a company that is in the innovative health product sector, and they're a manufacturer. They've been in business for 3 years, so they've generated revenue. So they're at that next level of company growth. So they have a really good thing going because they have a strong demand for their product. But with strong demand comes strong increase in production capacity. So not only do you need equipment, but you need staff. But also as they scale up to that next level, they also might need business advice on their expansion goals. So here's a few things. Yes, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. There is a question in chat.
Oh, sure. Yes.
So the question is there an age limit for the BDC Young Entrepreneur Program as well?
Yes, I believe it's also 39. Yeah, usually the government considers that, but don't count it 100%. You can always just Google it real quickly and just confirm that, but I believe it's 39.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So this one, obviously they'd need quite a bit of capital to purchase the equipment for expansion. So the Prairies Can, which is a federal organization that funds innovative companies in Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, has what they call a Jobs and Growth Fund, and they have interest-free repayable loans. So a lot of companies come to me and say, what's the difference between a bank loan and a loan like from BDC or Prairies Can? Well, with bank loans, as soon as you get the loan, you have to start repaying it, the next month. But with some of these interest-free repayable loans, you get a buffer, and that's determined by the lending agency, maybe 3 months, 6 months till you have to make your first month's payment to give you enough time to sort of catch up. And obviously having interest-free is better than interest. And now with interest rates increasing, that's another plus. And these loans can be stretched out for longer periods of time. So instead of 5 years, it might be 10 years. So the takeaway is your payments are going to be less. They're going to be delayed until you can start generating that revenue where you can have enough money to continue. In this case, the women's entrepreneur has $150,000 in loans available. And the Business Development Bank of Canada has loans with like I said, longer repayable terms, flexibility, and lower interest rates. So this would be for more capital intensive firms that are on the real growth to maturity stage. They'd also need additional staff, obviously, for the production expansion. So Canada Summer Job has wage subsidies for students, and Ventures for Canada has internships and other graduate student employment programs. As they scale up, they're going to need some business advice. So Alberta Women's Entrepreneur has free advice with financial and business advisors. The great news about this is that these are women business and financial advisors who have been entrepreneurs, who understand the challenges that women have in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So they can really help you not only with advice, but also pointing you in the right direction and having a bit of coaching abilities also. And like I said, BusinessLink has business plan reviews and one-on-one business advice and coaching. And Business Development Canada has expertise to over 500 business consultants to develop expansion plans. So like I said, when you have 500 different consultants and they're very specific in their niche, they match your specific requirements to one of those niche business consultants, which is going to be really important. They need to understand your business. And just before we end, I wanted to mention the Can Health Network. I'm sure some of you have already heard of them, but it's a national partnership comprising of leading Canadian health organizations, referred to as EDGES, which is just another way of saying the provincial health systems, and other companies across Canada. Health Canada Network is made possible with funding by the federal government. And they work to introduce new solutions to the healthcare system and pave way for Canadian businesses to scale not only in Canada, but globally. So how does it work? Well, the EDGES identify market-ready needs for the network. So Alberta Health Service will say, we need this new innovation or this new product or this new process. And they will look to the companies that are best suited to that, and then provide them with multi-level support to ensure optimal product market fit. And once a national competitive procurement process is launched, members can procure the solution without having to repeat the process. So it's just a quicker way to get your innovative health product or service or app or technology into the provincial healthcare systems. So when you're applying for some of these programs, I put a quick list of tips for success. So like I mentioned before, government programs fund projects. They don't fund your company per se. They won't say, you know, here's money for the next 20 years to support your business. They always look at things in projects with a beginning and an end. So make sure you're framing it like that. The programs are both risk adverse and competitive. Because the funding comes from the government and taxpayers' money, the government has to make sure that the funds being spent are going to result in actionable, concrete benefits for all Canadians. So they are a competitive process, and they're risk adverse, so they want to make sure they've crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's. So just remember that. Read the program guide before you apply. So many companies just fill out an application and they don't realize what is required in the guide. And then unfortunately, your application might get bumped. They're not considered as much as the next one. Know your audience. So if you're in the health industry and there's a lot of short forms and other terms that the government people that would review your application wouldn't understand, then it's going to probably lead to confusion on the other end. Be clear and concise. And if you're in doubt about the program or what's required, reach out to the program administrators and ask the question. And if you have any challenges with that, you can always reach out to me and I can see if I could help out with that. So I want to thank you and for the chance to present today. And just remember that we're here to help find the right programs and services to support your innovation growth, and have my contact information there. And I'd be pleased to take questions or have a one-on-one advisory meeting at your convenience if you wanted to email me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. This has been excellent. We have learned a lot of new things today, and there has been also a lot of points in the chat about the excellent resources which are available. I encourage anybody to ask a question by raising your hand in the raise hand feature here, or you can also unmute and then you can get an opportunity to unmute and ask your question or share in the chat. While people get their questions ready, I have a couple for you. So I was wondering, John, about some of the.
Uh-oh, I think your internet's frozen again. Isn't technology wonderful? Okay.
So there is a percentage that you have to. Can you hear me? I get this that.
We lost you,
Paramita.
Yeah. Would you mind to?
Yes, I was asking that there are many resources available for hiring talent. Now, the government asks to be to diversify, and also asks that when you're paying your share of the funds to bring on somebody, you are using other dollars, not necessarily like provincial dollars. So my question is, again, I'll give you a case study example. Somebody has an NSERC grant, which is federal, and they want to apply for MyTax. Can they use those NSERC grants to pay their share of the MyTax?
I think you can, but again, I'm not an expert on all the details of the programs. I could find out the answers to that question for you, but I would think that depending on the source of funding, because all the different funding programs have different stipulations for what you can use and what you can't. So those requirements would be enforced, and it depends, because a lot of companies ask me if you can stack. So stack means, you know, you get a grant, a government grant for $10,000, and you're eligible for another 10,000. Can you get that one? Or the fact that you have that one already means you can't get that one. So those are the kind of questions you should be asking those programs directly. So I don't want to make, you know, I don't want to say 100% for sure. Either way, it'd be best to go right to the source, because those requirements change all the time, and it's tough to keep up.
Perfect. Thank you. I see Marina has raised her hand, and there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
Sure, I'll go ahead. So John, you mentioned there is BDC, and the entrepreneurs get access to about 500 business consultants.
Yes.
Is this a free service?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
But they have different packages for different companies in different stages.
Okay.
So I know a few companies that have accessed it and have been extremely happy, because like I said, they have a Rolodex, I guess, of 500 consultants across Canada that are expertise in that niche, that are entrepreneurs that have gone through that have seen all the issues and challenges that might come up. So I would say, you know, have a conversation with an account manager at BDC. And, you know, what I've heard was that the value spent for that advice was well worth it. But if you're looking for free advice, then start off with Business Link. And then I'm not quite sure about Alberta Women Entrepreneurs, but if there is a fee, I don't think it would be much, but it'd be best to contact them to see.
Excellent. And I'm going to go with the next question received from Tatiana. So for health-related projects, we should apply directly via Health Network website?
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, if you apply for any of these programs and you know, you're coming up against you know, they're not getting back to you, or maybe you're lost in the system, just give me a quick email and I'll see if I can get the right person for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marina. This actually gives me a nice segue to ask my next question, which was about lack of time, which is something that all entrepreneurs have in general.
Right.
And anything to do with the federal government sometimes takes a lot of time. So what would you suggest as such an entrepreneur does? So what would be a way to expedite? Because it can become frustrating. Maybe they have applied for a grant and are waiting for a result.
Yeah.
That's one part of that question. And another part was, in order to make their grant much more successful, innovation could have multiple aspects of it. It could have a research-driven an idea, or it could be commercialization.
Right.
So what, in your opinion, should an entrepreneur be focusing on or make it even more successful grant application? What does it take?
Okay. So I'll answer the first question. So with the federal government, I mean, obviously, the government gets it because it's bureaucracy. So that was one of the reasons the Innovation Advisors was created. We're only about 4 years old. So they realized that, companies and entrepreneurs are super busy and they don't have time to look at all the programs and try to figure out who's who and what you can apply for. So that's what we're here for. We're sort of here as concierge, but we also support provincial programs and local programs also. So it's not just federal programs. We do provincial and basically everything else. And the reason is that we know that entrepreneurs are busy, and to have one person hearing their story and saying, these are the right programs at the right time for you now, right? Now, once we recommend a program, we don't have the ability to approve it or after the process that you start, it's with you in that organization. But if you're obviously coming up against frustrations, you could also email us and we can see what we can do. We can never promise anything, but a lot of times there is a bit of a backlog, and maybe we can get in front of that for you and we can see what we can do. And as far as the grant applications is concerned, it's really good to talk to an innovation advisor to make sure that you're applying for the right grant, because there's grants that are available in financing for pre-revenue and revenue and at different stages, and also for different sectors. So I know there's some unique ones for the health sector, and sometimes that can cross over with innovation and other things. So if you have a clinical app that you're producing, is that an IT, is that a digital play, or is that a health play for innovation? So a lot of these things sort of cross different paths, but the best thing to do is just to get a hold of an innovation advisor, and we can sort of find the pathway for you as quickly as possible, because we know that you're super busy.
Thank you so much.
You're
so
welcome.
would you say then an innovation advisor such as yourself is acting as a concierge, but they are also acting as an advisor for the company, as in not necessarily just directing them, but also telling them, you know what, maybe you shouldn't apply now, maybe you should apply
Yes.
6 months time? Yes.
So the other thing is you want to apply for the right thing at the right time, right? So obviously, even with myself, there's, I think, 600 different innovation programs and services across Canada. Even for myself to know what each one is would, be a huge task in itself. So obviously somebody who's looking for support isn't going to be able to have time to research all those things. So I think it's just important to reach out and not waste your time, because we're here to sort of help expedite the process, and we really are a one-stop concierge, and that's what we're here for. We're called in the government field staff. So we're out there, we understand the pains and the processes that entrepreneurs go through. So we sort of have a passion for being a bit of an advocate for you and supporting you.
Perfect. We did get a few requests in the chat to share your information. So I have
Perfect.
done so.
Thank
And if we get your permission, then we can also share the slide deck with our attendees.
Yes, of course.
Perfect. So after this event, we will send out the slide deck to the attendees. There's also another question in the chat, but it is probably something which is more for the Health Innovation Hub. I'll still ask the question. Shami is asking, is lab space in downtown Edmonton available to U of A passouts who no longer work with university? So I will answer from the Health Innovation Hub's perspective, and John, please chime in with more information that you have. Yes, absolutely, it is available. We do have companies who are alumni of the university, so no longer affiliated with the university as of now. So I would advise sending out an email to healthhub@ualberta.ca for us to have that one-to-one conversation. about what your needs are and how, or if you're a company, if you're a student, what do you want the lab space for? So let's have that conversation. And Marina has popped in that email. So thank you, Marina. John, do you have any further information?
Yeah, and if there's any charges that you have, any funding that you need, just sort of really at the beginning of the stage, Alberta Innovates has a micro voucher program, and I believe that's $10,000 that could help facilitate some of the things you might need.
Perfect. Yes, Alberta Innovates micro vouchers are really good, and they can help to do a whole bunch of things.
Right.
So while we are waiting for a few more questions to come up in the chat, and again, please raise your hands if you have any questions. You mentioned, John, about the Can Health Network, and that's Pan Canada. So so my question was, can you talk a little bit more about, is there provincial representation? So if so, then who are the organizations, for instance, from Alberta? So that if we wanted to tap into the Pan-Canada, the health network, how do we do that? Do we go to that organization? And also, is it their mandate to advocate for Alberta companies?
Yeah, so Can Health is across the country, obviously. So it really technically supports every province the same. But as far as Alberta is concerned, Alberta Health Service sort of is the leading edge. And then there's other health organizations that would be part of EDGE. And it's best to get a hold of Canada Health Network to see specifically what they are, because even when I sort of was researching it, but I couldn't find the name of the other organizations. But they would be, major players in the system that would be able to support it, because what they want to do is they want to, when they need something, they want an innovative company within that province to supply that provincial health service with that product or service. So, you really want to get in front of it, and that's why Procurement Canada and ICS can also be a good way to get your product in front of everyone in Canada. Because at the end of the day, the government really wants to support Albertan and Canadian companies, innovators, and there's a market here, so we want to have them sort of like first choice.
Right. So would the yes, I see Anna has her hand up, so I'll give the stage to Anna.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated your presentation, John. I thought it was very, very insightful, and it opened my eyes. I was only aware of Venture and the Canada Summer Jobs programs up until now. But my question is, apart from obviously reading the program guides and things like that through each of the possible grants, so I'm vaguely familiar with them, but not very specifically. So could you elaborate whether or not the program guides give an indication as to preference being given to certain grants if they target or seem to benefit a certain type of population or a certain demographic or a certain portion of the population? Like, say, for example, if my innovation or my idea that I'm putting together for product or service only benefits a certain percentage of the population, can you say whether or not that specific information is readily available in terms of maximizing the opportunity, as Paramita mentioned earlier?
Yes, that's a great point. And actually, yes. So when you look at the program requirements, it'll give you sort of clues and indications, and also the specific programs. So there's specific programs for support for BIPOC, Indigenous, LGBTQ, all sorts of different programs that are specifically made for those populations. And if your organization is owned by one of those underrepresented Canadian entrepreneurs, there's that extra level of support. And so I would highly recommend looking at that. But yeah, when you look at the requirements, it might say something like preference given to, or, some things like that. So when you see that, really pay attention and make sure that's included in your application, because that's really going to help at the end of the day.
When you brought up the business finder or the business benefit finder,
yeah,
I just sort of popped it up on my second screen, and I just did the little questionnaire with the story that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It was very user friendly. It was just like click all that, apply, and then it just sort of spat out a bunch of different potential programs that you can go through. So it's very user friendly. I was very surprised from something government funded to be so user friendly. I don't have to print out 500 pages of forms. So I'm like very surprised. It's really great initiative.
That's what we've heard. So I'm a big fan. And so what I like about it is you click on the program and a green screen, like a green background screen, pops up. And then there's a quick synopsis on the left-hand side of the program. On the right side is this, here's some of the requirements. And if you like that, then there's a direct link to the website. So it's a great tool. And that feedback's very valuable. And I will, we have a team, the Business Benefits Finder team, that are always on the ball doing that. So any feedback from the field, I will share with them. So thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that question. It was, and also for your feedback about the Business Benefits Finder. I have also used it myself and found it extremely user-friendly. And there is something similar that Alberta Innovates is also doing. So their website has also somewhat similar, where instead of doing all of that, you could just plug in, this is what I'm looking for. And again, making it that easy, because as we talked about, lack of time being something that all entrepreneurs have. So it's absolutely very vital that whatever can be done for them is interesting. So John, my next question would be about your experiences. You have been working in the innovation advisory capacity. You have yourself been an entrepreneur for all these years in different organizations. Now you're working with Innovation Canada. So the health landscape and the funding in the health landscape, it has also changed. What, in your experience, can you comment on how you have seen that change happening? And is there sort of a trajectory where you're seeing more funding coming in the health aspects? For instance, is it coming more into the digital field? Is it more pharmaceuticals, or is it not so much? It's more sector agnostic, if there's anything to do with technology. So what would you say is, how is it changing, and is it, and where do you see the future going?
Yeah, I think I see a very strong trend in, obviously healthcare is very expensive, and they want to leverage technology and innovation to reduce those costs. So I've seen a lot of, for instance, clinical apps, where it leads to efficiencies, not only for the patient, but for the clinic itself. Those seem to be really hot and getting a lot of support. Anything that saves time, and saves therefore money and is more efficient, that's what healthcare providers are looking for. So I would say that was a field that I see a lot of activity in. Obviously, pharmaceuticals are going to be something that's supported whether the economy is up or down. So I just see some innovative types of research, nanotechnology being one that's really a positive thing for the pharmaceutical industry. I see a lot of innovation when it comes to rehabilitative prosthetics and just unique ways of rehabilitating injuries and getting those patients back up into functioning and getting them back to work, those kind of devices and things like that. And really, those are the things that sort of come to mind, that sort of leveraging technology and digital and IoT to really make things easier for patients. Like, give you one example where we have a high population of elderly patients that are going to need much more care, and if we can find digital solutions to that, it's going to be better for the patient, and it's going to decrease the cost for everyone going down the road. So I see a lot of applications for that field coming up and a lot of opportunities.
Right. And this also is very interesting that you mentioned the rehab prosthetics, because I remember having gone to Glenrose, and they had these very interesting projects that they were running with the military. And there were also projects which they were running with other organizations which care about the elderly population or people who might need rehabilitation and prosthetics. I've also seen some grant opportunities come up around the space funding agencies, for instance, which is to do with health. So is that a growing trend with the other players coming in?
Yeah, so actually, funny you should mention that. I had a big meeting with the Canadian Space Agency last week, and they were saying, most of the opportunities are going to be, near Earth, sort of satellite opportunities, and as we get ready for interplanetary exploration, we need to make sure that the health of the astronauts is supported. So there's a lot of innovation going on in that field, but also preparing for interplanetary missions. And you can imagine the health aspects of, going to Mars and living on Mars, and what kind of impact that would have on human health. So yes, there is a lot of interest and research in those areas. And it's not something that's going to be overnight. These are like 5, 10, 20-year goals, but they're definitely thinking about these things.
Perfect. This is really interesting, because it seems that what with the space agencies coming together, and as well as the military, there are a lot of newer ways in which it's going to move. You talked about clinical apps for efficiencies. Often we think that it has to do with AI. Right? AI definitely helps, but then it's also extremely software driven, not necessarily always AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, some of these apps are, just reminders. And they're also, another trend actually is mental health apps, to continue with these clinical ones too, because you're getting rehabilitated and you have physical injury, but you're also having perhaps mental challenges that can be addressed by some of these apps that are being developed by psychologists and things like that, that have definite therapeutic sort of counseling aspects to them also. So you're getting some of those apps that really deal with a very holistic way of looking at patient recovery, which I think is very unique and innovative.
If I may jump in, I actually work for a mental health care firm. It is a private for-profit company, but when we looked at sort of online screening tools for people to see whether or not there is something, because there is a reluctance for people to come and seek out mental health unless there is some sort of crisis in their life. And so to make it more accessible, there's that tool of kind of like connecting with the client and saying, hey, John, how are you feeling today? Like, what is your mood like? What is your sleep like? Have you talked to somebody about your stress? Sort of not a prompting to sort of solicit for that sort of business, which is very touchy because you can't be seen doing that, obviously, not that we would ever want to. But I think that making the sort of closing in the barrier between the client and the customer and the patient to the service that's most needed for them at that time, and sort of that same way that you're doing with entrepreneurs and available grants and businesses, simply to sort of like bring them together much closer and sort of make it much more accessible and easier for them to connect with each other. But there is a saturation, and unfortunately the quality isn't really mitigated by any sort of agency, because they're so just anybody can sort of put it together and put it out there, but it's not really vetted. And so I wonder if there's a certification program that the federal government has put in place that I'm not aware of, perhaps, that sort of vets certain projects, so for businesses to connect. So for example, if the business that I work for could really benefit, say, the business that Paramita works for, that they've also put together a project, or sort of like a grant matchmaking program, almost in a way. Does that sort of make sense? I'm not sure if that's something that you do at all, or like a certification program for a project. So if the government does approve funding for this, they clearly would see some sort of merit or benefit to the public for it. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of connector there.
Yeah, so Health Canada would sort of deal with that. And I'm not 100% sure if that's certified, but I have an interesting observation that I've seen a few of these companies who deal with apps for mental health, that they're the vetting process is huge, and they do get certification from certain agencies. I don't know if they're connected to Health Canada, but they're like, you know, the Canadian Psychological Association. I've seen that where they're actually vetted and sort of like approved, which I think is a good beginning benchmark, because like you say, you know, you don't want anybody to come up with a mental health app that hasn't been properly vetted by professionals and you know, had some research done to it. You don't want to do more harm than good. So, but that's a great question. And I'm going to write that down and see, because now I'm curious myself. So great question. Thank you.
We are coming to the end of this event. So thanks everybody who has been with us. There is one question in the chat that I am going to be asking. Please, respecting everybody's time, please feel free to hang out with us for the last question, or go about. Have a great rest of your day. So thanks everybody for joining. The session is officially closed, but I'm just going to ask that last question of John. Shami has asked if there is a space where governmental procurement needs are posted.
Yes. So if you want to give me a quick email, I can give you the link to that. So through Procurement Canada. Another thing I wanted to mention, because you said something about defense, there's a site called D&D Ideas, which is a procurement process for the Canadian military. And obviously there's medical applications in there also. So there's a few different sites that might be of interest. So just give me a quick email and I can give you the actual website details on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yes, Shami, I believe you have the link in the chat. So, and give John an emails to talk more. Thanks everybody again for joining us, for the excellent interaction, for the great questions. Thank you, Anna, for sharing that little part of it. It was really very insightful. So again, thanks so much, John, for coming. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and have a great weekend.
Great. Thank you, Parami, and thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to speak with everyone soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.